Hello and welcome back. I am a member of a Facebook group called Team Tiny, a group of YouTube creators who have less than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And some of us get together once a month for Embossing Folder Friday, where we choose an embossing folder design and create a paper craft project using the embossing folder as our initial design element. I decided I wanted to do something bright, so I chose this yellow cardstock and made some card bases. And I really needed something that would go quick, so I decided to use this large die set. This die says just a note, and it has the bubble around it, so it has the backing, and you'll see both of those. These are by Pink and Main, and if you're interested in those dies, there is a link in the description box below, so check those out. And I paired my yellow cardstock with this blue. It is actually more of a teal color, but the lighting and the video doesn't really do it justice here. But I decided that I was going to go ahead and make two embossed pieces with the blue and white. So I just cut these down to the size of a card front and glued them at an angle just to give a little interest. So I fussed around with that a little bit, and then I kind of glued it down. What I did is I decided where I wanted it. I moved the paper down a little bit and kind of sketched a line with my glue bottle so that I knew where to put the glue. And then I glued it down. I used the straight edges on the paper to line these up in my paper trimmer and cut them down to a rectangle. And I do that for both of them and get them embossed. I have a Gemini, and so I go ahead and put these pieces in the folder one at a time and run them through my Gemini off screen and get them embossed. I had a brand new rubber embossing mat from Crafter's Companion to use with this embossing folder, and I took it out of the package and I ran it through. The first time I ran it through the embossing machine, this is what I did to it, which is exactly why I had to get a new one, because I had done this previously. If you watched this far just to see what I broke, please give me a thumbs up. The reason this happened is because I tried to cram too much stuff through the Gemini. My sandwich had too many layers, and the motor is so strong on the machine that it just smashed everything down, and it kind of tore up the softest thing that was in the sandwich, which was this rubber mat. And this is exactly why I had a new rubber mat, because I had done this to my previous mat as well and failed to learn from my mistake. So I went ahead and ran the second through with my mat with the hole in it. And there was one little section on that piece that I didn't really get completely. It didn't really emboss as well as I would have liked, but it still looked pretty good, so I decided to use it. And so here's the rest of the sandwich. You can see that I'm using a magic mat. I think this is the 9 by 14. And the motor again is so strong that you can see where the roller just gripped it and held on really tight and basically warped the magic mat. So I will keep an eye on this and see what happens to the mat. I know the self-healing mechanism works really well on the mat, but I will see if running this through the machine again a couple times in a different direction with different layers will maybe work out some of the warping and bowing that's in there. So again, I use my Gemini off screen and I cut these out of both the blue and the yellow cardstock. So I have a background and a sentiment in both colors. And since I have two of the sets of sentiments, I decided that I would use both of these embossed pieces. So for this first card, I just decide to stick with the angle that I have this blue piece of cardstock at. And luckily I have the fine metal tip on my art glitter glue bottle so that I can just get a little bit of glue in all of those really important places to adhere this down. Of course, it is on top of a piece of embossed cardstock, so I use my dry embossing tool to kind of help me smash down some of those parts. And then I adhere that to the yellow card base, of course, embossed paper. So I use my dry embossing tool, my poking tool, just to kind of adhere that a little bit. So this second card was a bit of an adventure. I glued down my card front to my card base, like you do, checking my orientation just to make sure I know what's going on there. And then I played with it for the longest little bit. And if you remember, this has that one section that wasn't really as embossed as I would have liked it to be. So I kind of played with covering that up just a little bit with the background of the sentiment. So even though I thought I knew what I was doing at this point, I still fuss with it a little bit by turning the card base a few times at different angles to see what I like. And then I suddenly realized that some of this just feels like extra. So I take a chunk of the embossed piece of card and I adhere it onto another piece of yellow cardstock and giving it just kind of a smaller frame around the middle there. And that's where I adhere my sentiment. So I get that glued down, and once that's glued down, I go back with a white gel pen and add some highlights. And then on the other card with the yellow sentiment, I use a black micron pen to give that some highlights in black. I originally was going to use the white, but it didn't really show up very well against the yellow cardstock. So. And there you have 2 for Embossing Folder Friday. In the description, you will see hashtag EFF2. If you click on that, it will take you to all the other participants in this little hop. Don't forget to like those videos, subscribe to their channels, and give them some love. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. I appreciate it so much. And don't forget, safety first.